Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our summit session on reducing the energy burden, energy efficiency, and renewable energy for all. We have a fantastic lineup of speakers for you today, and we'll get to the program in just a minute. A couple of housekeeping notes. Since we're on a webinar setting, you can only see the videos of the speakers, and we'll have all the speakers come on at the end for Q&A. If you have a question or a comment, please use the question box, and we'll be looking at those during the webinar and get to your questions, most of them at the end. Unless there's something that is confusing folks, we'll stop and explain that. But please take advantage of the question box or the chat box. If you chat, please remember to chat to all attendees if you think it's interesting for all attendees, or just to the panelists if it's a question for us. We also have closed captioning for our webinar presentations this week. If you see the captioning at the bottom of your screen and want to turn it off, go to the toolbar at the bottom of your screen, and depending on how wide your screen is, you may have to click on the three little buttons that say more, or you may see a prompt for the transcript. So click on the three buttons for more and just click hide subtitle if you don't want to see the closed captioning on your screen. So I'm going to do that on mine right now and help you take advantage of that benefit if it's useful for you. So a couple of announcements. June 6th, coming right up, municipal certification deadline. Looking forward to seeing all the activity that's been going on. We've been so pleasantly surprised during this period of COVID on both our schools program and our municipal program of all the activity that you have continued. So congratulations to you and thank you for your commitment. We do have a couple of opportunities open for assistance. So free technical assistance to develop a water story. That is our new action and gold star in water that was announced earlier this week. In addition, there is an opportunity for grants for resiliency and environmental stewardship projects in the Atlantic City electric service territory. Excellent opportunity if you are located in that service territory. Since we're at the end of our summit and have had a great week, we will post all of the recordings of the events on our website by the end of next week. I'd like to take a minute to, next slide please, to thank our, whoops, oh, I'm sorry. I was ahead of myself. So here's our agenda for today. Let me get focused here and run this appropriately. Great set of speakers, great set of topics, starting with Kelly Moy, who's Director of the Division of Clean Energy at the Board of Public Utilities. She'll be giving us a wide overview of the changing landscape of the New Jersey's clean energy programs and lots of great updates on what's coming next. Next, we'll have Tracy Woods here at Sustainable Jersey provide an overview of the Comfort Partners Toolkit. So it will give you some information on the Comfort Partners program itself and how the toolkit can be used to really ramp up your outreach to your community to encourage folks to engage with this excellent program. Next, we have Nicole Miller, who's chair of the Newark Green Team, who has done this. She's in the process of working up with the Essex County Hub Group, a multi-municipality Comfort Partners Outreach campaign. So we're very excited to hear about that and get some tips on how to do that and make a very effective campaign. And last but not least is Dan Jennings, Director of Policy Planning and Development at East Orange, who has done a fantastic job with the community solar project there that has so many multiple benefits for his community that we really are just so excited to share that with everyone today. So next slide, please. Just a short thank you, a big shout out, short and sweet, but big, to our underwriters for the summit. So our main underwriters, Clean Energy Program, Dodge Foundation, and New Jersey School Board Association, and our specific summit sponsors who stepped up to the plate and helped us to make this event possible. So with that, I'll throw it over to Kelly at the Board of Public Utilities.
Good morning. Thank you, Nancy. I'm glad to be able to be here today with the other panelists to talk about a number of opportunities that we have in the state of New Jersey. And my goal here is to provide a little bit of overview of what we're doing at the Clean Energy Program, and to be able to nest some of the concepts that we're going to be talking about, Comfort Partners and also community solar, into the overall landscape of what we are looking at in terms of our clean energy agenda. Next slide. So I'll just talk a little bit about the Energy Master Plan and our clean energy goals, the New Jersey Clean Energy Program and its programs that are part of that, as well as specifically highlighting the energy efficiency transition, our Office of Clean Energy Equity, Comfort Partners Program, our Whole House Program, and then talk briefly about renewable energy and specifically talking about community solar. Next slide. And in case you can hear it, I've got a dreaming puppy in the background who is in the middle of some kind of a good dream. Sorry about that. So the Energy Master Plan, really exciting, released about a year and 4 months ago, and was designed with significant stakeholder engagement over a long period of time, and provides a comprehensive roadmap to meeting our goals. So we talk a lot about our clean energy goals of 100% clean energy by 2050. Next slide. And we've got 7 strategies for doing that. We will focus in on renewable energy and energy efficiency, but we also talk a lot about transportation sector. I think there was a great presentation by my colleague Kathleen Lewis yesterday about electric vehicles. So it's a great opportunity for us to talk about and dig into 2 separate programs that are included within the 7 strategies for achieving that clean energy 100% by 2050 goal. Next slide. Oops, back a couple. So the, yep. Oh, that's fun. We're at the right one. Thank you. The New Jersey Clean Energy Program is administered by the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities, our Division of Clean Energy, where I am the director. It's funded by Societal Benefits Charge. So if you're wondering how we pay for these great projects, those are funds that are accrued from utility bills. And our program goals for all of the programs are to provide opportunity for all New Jersey residents to reduce their energy use and lower their operating costs, meeting our environmental and emission reduction goals, and specifically all together trying to reach that goal of 100% clean energy by 2050. Next slide. The programs that we, back one more. The programs we do this in are the Renewable Energy Program, offshore wind and regular solar and community solar, our specialized energy efficiency programs, including community energy grants, for example, commercial and industrial and residential energy efficiency programs, and distributed energy resources. Next slide. Back one. Thank you. So these are the real world results that we see as a result of the 141,000 applications that we receive every year. And if you want to think about what that means in terms of actual impact, it equates to about 160,000 cars being removed from the streets, or 12 million trees planted. So it's some pretty exciting stuff that's done through this program to really help to advance our goals. Next slide. The Clean Energy Act is also one of the key components that helped us to really direct towards achieving those goals. And you'll notice in the middle of the screen, community solar pilot program and the energy savings targets, which were established through this act. And those are 2 that I'm going to dig into a little bit more. Next slide. So the energy efficiency transition has happened over the past 2 years, really since the signing of the Clean Energy Act in 2018, and was intended to help us to reach the energy goals for the state of New Jersey. And we like to say that energy efficiency really sometimes gets short shrift. There are lots of exciting things that are going on with solar and with offshore wind. But really, as the president often says to us, energy efficiency is the cheapest and easiest way to meet our goals. It's the energy that we don't use. So the goal in our transition was to ensure that there would be access to our energy efficiency programs for all market segments, regardless of geographic location, and specifically was focused on low income customers and decreasing energy burdens. We know that research has shown that the average low income household devotes more than 3 times more of their income to energy bills than the average higher income household. And EE programs can reduce the inequity that's experienced by groups and individuals around the state who disproportionately lack access to energy efficient housing, appliances and technologies. We also wanted to focus on increased accountability and reporting of spending and energy savings as well. We are investing a considerable amount of money in making sure that we're successful in energy efficiency, and we wanted to make sure that we could appropriately count and track that. We also wanted to focus on increasing economic benefits and job opportunities throughout the entire state of New Jersey and for all of our communities. So those were some of the goals that we were focused on in our transition. Next slide. Later on, you're going to hear a lot about Comfort Partners, but I just wanted to mention it. It's one of our key programs right now, co-managed by the state and the utilities. The utilities do direct day-to-day management of the program, and it's a free program that helps income-eligible customers to reduce their utility bills through implementing energy efficiency. So that provides, obviously, an opportunity to save money, but also to address some of the home safety and comfort issues that they have in their homes. Next slide. One of the really exciting programs that we have coming up is a pilot program that we've just recently announced, and we have a consultant who will be helping us with. Energy efficiency is a wonderful opportunity, but sometimes can't be taken advantage of by everybody who would like to take advantage of it, because there are a lot of different programs throughout the state that address different aspects of comfort and health and safety and household and health determinants. And so this program, which was written about in the Energy Master Plan and discussed extensively in our energy efficiency transition stakeholder meetings, is designed to take a whole house approach to addressing these health and safety measures while at the same time implementing energy efficiency. So it's intended to be an integrated statewide approach that streamlines and leverages all of the different components, things like lead remediation and mold remediation, in addition to our energy efficiency. So we can leverage those existing resources and also provide people with one-stop shopping for these items that they need. Next slide. One of the other exciting aspects in our equity work is the Office of Clean Energy Equity. It was created in 2020. We have 2 staff members now working on equity. It's intended really to focus on energy efficiency, but also in order to serve our overburdened communities throughout New Jersey, wanting to make sure that there's equitable participation in all of our clean energy programs, energy efficiency, of course, and the rest as well, so that we can make sure there's the ability to take advantage of the benefits from clean energy is afforded to everybody. So the office incorporates the equity considerations into all aspects of the board's programming and looks to collaborate also with community-based organizations and nonprofits in overburdened communities, as well as partner agencies in the implementation of all of our energy programs, but also in workforce development as well. So we're very excited about this new office within the board. Next slide. So I wanted to talk briefly about community solar because you're going to hear about that as well. This is just a nice picture representation of solar. One of the challenges that we had in the past is that solar wasn't an opportunity that was afforded to everyone. There are a number of reasons why you might not be able to take advantage of community solar, and so or of solar. And so we wanted to design a program. We were in our 2nd year of our pilot program, having had very successful first year of applications and some of those projects that are being built right now. Next slide. And community solar is really just a larger remotely located solar array or facility that is available to multiple participants. So in normal circumstances, you might have solar that's on your rooftop, and that would be available to you only. But in certain circumstances, like for renters, for example, or institutions or businesses who don't have roofs that they have access to or that aren't appropriate for solar installation, they can take advantage of a remotely located solar array where they can take advantage of and participate in the clean energy revolution. Next slide. One back. So this is a good couple of questions for folks that are on about what may make you qualified for being interested in community solar. If you want to use solar, but you don't have a place for panels, if your house isn't faced in the right direction or you don't have the right type of roof, if you can't afford your own panels on your facility or your home, or conversely, if you have room for more panels, but not the energy use on site, you could potentially take advantage of community solar. Next slide. So for our municipal and green team partners who are here, I thought I'd put a little bit of extra information in about the opportunity for government and business entities to participate in community solar. So you can become an anchor subscriber. So you would be a primary subscriber for a community solar project. You can, as I mentioned before, provide land or rooftop for the siting of a solar array, or you can be involved in a competitive procurement on behalf of a community. It also is an opportunity for affordable housing. The program was designed to ensure that all community solar would have a balance of 51% or more of LMI constituents participating. And we have found that our first 2 years of pilots have both met and exceeded that. So the idea is that any community members would be able to participate and also reduce their bills at the same time. Next slide. And the participation, as I mentioned, can be in the form of ownership, which is buying a share or a portion of the community solar project or panels, or a subscription, which we're seeing a lot of, which is buying a portion or a share of the electric output that's produced by the community solar project, thereby using green energy, but also reducing your bills. Next slide. So thank you for the opportunity to just present a couple of the many programs that we have going on within the board's programs, and we're really excited to be here. Just in terms of, as we talk about community solar, we did have 45 projects in program year 1 that represented only almost 80 megawatts of electricity. And all 45 of those projects were committed to allocating at least 51% of their project capacity to LMI subscribers. And then in program year 2, which closed February 5th, and the board is currently in process of reviewing, we received 410 applications representing approximately 800 megawatts of electricity. So the program is going very smoothly. We're really excited about it. It's a huge component of our renewable energy and equity goals moving forward. And I'm excited to hear the other speakers talk about some of their experiences as well. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Kelly. That is so inspiring to hear about the Community Solar Project. We know that many of you on the call or on the webinar today, over the past several months, we've been hearing from you, both those of you who have pilot year 1 projects being built and ready to subscribe, and many of you being very interested in applying for pilot year 2. So yeah, 800 megawatts. Kelly, remind us, what is the total amount that is planned to be awarded for pilot year 2? Do you recall?
Yeah, so over the life of the 3 years, we plan to award at least 300 megawatts. So I think suffice to say, we had a lot of interest in year 1. We had even more interest in year 2. So we will be expanding the awards for year 2. It's been really successful. And again, it's a wonderful way for us to meet both our clean energy goals and ensuring that we are really providing the benefits of clean energy to everybody throughout the state of New Jersey.
Great, thank you. Yes, just putting a finer point on that overwhelming interest in the program. But to go back to earlier in your presentation and remind folks of the full array of programs, very excited to hear about the whole house program. And I want to remind everyone, please put your questions in the question box as you have them. It's easier to do while you're thinking of it. And with that, I'll turn it over to Tracy Woods, who will take a deeper dive into the Comfort Partners program and set up for our next couple of speakers with a case study. Tracy?
Thank you, Nancy. So as Kelly was saying before, I'm going to go into a little bit more information about the New Jersey Comfort Partners program, and also talk about Sustainable Jersey's relatively new Comfort Partners Toolkit that supports municipalities in doing outreach of the Comfort Partners program. As Kelly said, Comfort Partners is a free energy savings and energy education program that helps income eligible customers across New Jersey save energy and money while increasing the comfort and safety of their homes. In order to be eligible for Comfort Partners, the combined income of the household needs to be 250% or less of the federal poverty guidelines. Additionally, households that receive aid from any of these public support programs may also be eligible for Comfort Partners. And then in addition to meeting one of those eligibility requirements, the residence must be the primary residence for the household, and the homeowner must have lived in the residence for a minimum of a year. Renters are eligible for Comfort Partners if they have landlord permission, and they must have an electric or gas utility with one of New Jersey's public utilities and live in a building with 1 through 14 living units. And for those that live in multifamily buildings, the electric and or gas utilities must be individually metered by each unit. So the residents must receive their own electric or gas bill. Here's an example of the income guidelines. This is for 2021, and you can see that a family or a household of 4 that makes a combined income of a little just over 66,000 would be eligible for the program, or if they make less than that. And then the eligibility, the income eligibility goes up or down depending on the number of residents in the household. And once now that we've talked about the eligibility requirements, we're going to talk about what Comfort Partners looks like from the resident's point of view. So once eligibility has been verified for that household, an agent of the Comfort Partners program will do an assessment of that residence and come up with a list of energy efficiency measures that will be included in that Comfort Partners project. And those measures can include efficient lighting products, shower heads and aerators, a replacement of inefficient refrigerators or thermostats, air sealing and other duct work, heating and cooling equipment maintenance, and also personalized energy education and counseling, as well as insulation upgrades. And the measures that are selected for that residence will be determined by the Comfort Partners review of that property. And of course, all of that work that's done for each residence is done for free. And so we want to make sure that folks who are eligible for those programs know about them, which is where we come in with the Sustainable Jersey Comfort Partners Toolkit. And like the other energy efficiency toolkits that Sustainable Jersey has developed for commercial and residential outreach, this toolkit includes outreach collateral, such as template letters from municipalities, press releases, flyers, and other materials, and also recommendations for best practices for successful outreach campaigns. You can see at the bottom of the slide, I have a link to the toolkit. And once I'm done speaking, I'll probably put that in the chat function as well for you to see the toolkit. Another thing that's covered in the toolkit is how to start an outreach campaign. So as Kelly mentioned, the Board of Public Utilities has joined with New Jersey's public utilities to form the Comfort Partners program. And that program is overseen by the Comfort Partners Working Group Utility Coordinator, which right now is Patrick McDevitt at South Jersey Gas. So once a municipality has decided that they're interested in doing Comfort Partners outreach, they should contact Sustainable Jersey, and we'll put you in contact with the utility group coordinator who will review the Comfort Partners funding that's available for that municipal area. Because Comfort Partners works on an annual scale, you want to make sure that you're doing your outreach at a time when there's funding available in your service area. In addition to reviewing the timing and the scope of the outreach project, the Comfort Partners coordinator will connect the team to their outreach contractor. There are 6 outreach contractors that work in New Jersey, so you'll be put into touch with the contractor that works in your municipal area. And once you've been put in touch with your contractor, you'll set up an appointment to create an outreach plan with your Comfort Partners contractor and create a joint plan for doing outreach together to your residents. One of the things that's included in the toolkit is a template outreach plan. And you can see that it gives sort of prompts for doing different types of outreach. The municipality, once they've been put in touch with their outreach contractor, will go through this plan with their outreach contractor and submit it to the utility working group. And once that's been approved, they'll work with their contractor to do outreach in their municipality. Here are some of the items, the collateral items that are available in the toolkit to get municipalities started on doing Comfort Partners outreach once they've made the outreach plan. There are letters from the municipality and social media templates, flyers and House of Worship bulletin inserts and signage. And they all have language that's been approved by the Board of Public Utilities, so nobody needs to be nervous that they're accurately describing the program. And that's a resource that's available through the toolkit for municipalities. Another thing that's included in the toolkit is best practices for doing outreach in Comfort Partners. And that includes identifying outreach partners. Of course, your Comfort Partners contractor is going to be one of your best allies as a outreach partner, but also look at municipal employees such as the housing coordinator or the health officer can be great allies in knowing residents who may need the Comfort Partners program, looking at nearby municipalities, such as Nicole Miller from Newark is about to share with us. Their outreach project is part of a collaborative Essex County program. Also looking to local houses of worship and school districts for outreach partners. Another thing that you want to consider as a best practice is looking at potential mailings and online outreach. One of the things that your Comfort Partners contractor may be available to do is to pay for a mailing that is sent out by the municipality. So you'll want to discuss that option with your contractor. And of course, consider in-person and virtual workshops. Now that everything's on Zoom, you may be able to arrange a online presentation with your contractor and do presentations at community events and other local events. You can see the picture here is Green Team members promoting Comfort Partners at National Night Out. One last tool that I wanted to share with you that can help municipalities understand the makeup of the different neighborhoods in their community is a tool that's available through the United States Postal Service. It's called Every Door Direct Mail. And what it has is if you put in a zip code of your municipality, you can look at the individual postal routes of your municipality and see, you can see this is, I've clicked on in the picture on one postal route, and it shows you the income, the average income for that neighborhood. It also shows you how much it would be to do a mailing to that specific neighborhood, to that postal route. So that can really help you to understand what the different neighborhoods in your community, which neighborhoods in your community may benefit the most from Comfort Partner outreach and really target mailings. This is a relatively new service by the United States Postal Service. You used to have to send bulk mailings out to the whole zip code. So being able to target different neighborhoods in this way is a real advantage. But even if you're not planning to send out a mailing, this can be a great tool in helping you understand the income makeup of different neighborhoods in your community. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Nancy.
Great, thank you, Tracy. So informative. So many pieces to this puzzle of reaching everyone in the community. So having those resources ready. I did put the link to the toolkit in the chat box. We hope you're not looking at the toolkit right now so you can pay attention to our speakers. And again, if you have any questions or comments, we'd actually be interested to know if you're thinking about doing an outreach that would focus on Comfort Partners in your community. But with that, I'd like to give us an opportunity to hear directly from Nicole, who is doing exactly that and can give us a sense of the importance of reaching this community. It reflects things that Kelly was saying about, clean energy equity and how important it is. So Nicole, please take the floor.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nicole Miller, as was mentioned. I am the principal consultant of M&M Consulting. I'm also the chair of the Newark Green Team and a member of the Newark Environmental Commission. I have many hats. I know some of the participants who are here will be like, you didn't say, but you can't say everything. So for this particular project, let's stick with the Green Team and the Newark Environmental Commission. Can we go to the next slide? So the first thing that we want to discuss with this is really the legacy of toxicity, because when coming into a community to discuss new solutions or innovations, there might be resistance or pushback or hesitancy. And that is really a result of understanding what the community might have dealt with in the past. And so in this image right here, you'll see the Covanta incinerator, which is currently an energy producer. When we talk about clean energy and reducing the energy burden, we first really need to reconnect with our environmental justice communities like Newark, who are oftentimes centered right there in those heavily industrialized areas. And so we don't want to downplay the importance of the fossil fuel industry. The fossil fuels brought us and powered the present that we know and love so much. However, it is not the energy that we want to take into the future. And so there is just a legacy of living within this industrialized zone that environmental justice communities deal with on an everyday basis. Right there where that Covanta plant is down in the Ironbound section of Newark, and they have a host of impacts that are cumulative that affect their air, their land, their water, over 700 brownfields, et cetera. And so these are the realities that we want to deal with, as well as discussing the lost opportunities that might exist that have separated low-income communities, communities of color, even moderate income communities from the benefits and the clean energy and renewable energy revolution that might have left those communities in the dust. So when you think about Newark is nearly 80% renters. And so when you have renters, you often have people who are not in control of their own buildings or who live in multifamily units. When you have Newark, it's one of the oldest cities in the country. And so that means our housing stock is older. And so putting solar on top of rooftops is a little bit more tricky. That means the homeowner first has to retrofit their roof before they can get the solar put on. And then you think about benefits of tax credits. When a good third of the city is at or below the poverty line, then tax credits become less of an incentive for people to be able to do the kind of work that's necessary, right? And with regard to the job opportunities that the clean energy revolution provides, there's a lack of training for some folks. And so what we need is that training to be incorporated into the work that's directed at the consumer. We also want those, the people who are doing the work to be able to afford the materials that they're doing as well, right? And so then, in addition, there are just environmental stressors that prevent adoption of something like a solar array, for example. So if you live in an urban landscape versus a suburban or a rural landscape, there might not be direct sun access, or you might have a multifamily unit. Even if you live in a condo, it might be in a building as opposed to a single family home. And so those are just some realities, right? It's not enough just to increase the renewable energy that New Jersey purchases from its regional partners, but to truly reduce the energy burden, New Jersey needs to reduce our dependence on fossil fuels and invest in projects and programs designed to decrease the harmful and cumulative effects that our environmental justice communities are already suffering as a result of industrialization, but also ensure that those local residents are trained to take on the work of retrofitting their own communities in order to prepare for that clean energy transition. All right, can we go to the next slide? And so one opportunity that exists is the New Jersey Clean Energy Equity Act. And so this is a bill that was proposed by, I believe, Senators Ron Rice and Troy Singletary. I feel like I'm messing that man's name up. I apologize, Senator Troy. So It was introduced in 2020, and it has been passed by the Senate, but it is still being held up in Assembly. And this act is designed to help low-income residents benefit from solar, from storage, local storage, and also energy efficiency. And so this bill focuses on bill cost savings, so helping the consumer herself, the job training, so getting people trained to be able to do the jobs of retrofitting their communities, and then also local investment of these projects where they are needed the most. And so it also establishes an Office of Clean Energy Equity. As we heard earlier, Kelly mentioned that the BPU has already, the director has pledged to open an office and has hired a director for equity as well. They've pledged to create this office to be responsible for overseeing the equitable deployment of clean energy technologies and energy efficiency programs. Now, this is directed specifically at New Jersey's low and moderate income communities. Now, BPU has taken this action, though the Senate bill has not yet passed the Assembly or been signed by the governor. And so as you can see here, these are some of the components of the Energy Equity Act, what we hope it will do. And one thing that has not been mentioned yet is the funding for the bill, which would be 10% of BPU's existing clean energy program. Next slide, please. And so when engaging with environmental justice communities, be they urban or rural communities, those are often the two sort of polar communities that are subject to environmental justice concerns, it's very important to acknowledge the impacts, the social, the racial, the environmental histories of those locations when even approaching the communities with clean energy solutions. To know what you're going into ahead of time and not be surprised when people tell you things because you've done the proper research. But then also remember that those communities are actively dealing with the realities and the impacts of those realities. So whatever that environmental history is, that racial or social history is, the economic injustice that it might be dealing with. For example, here in Newark, we have a history of lead in both the housing stock, because it's an old housing stock, so we have lead paint. But then also famously, there's lead issues in the water that has been dealt with wonderfully, but there is a legacy to that, right? And so when you look at the realities of what lead does to the human body, then you might look at what are some of the societal repercussions of that and factor that in when dealing with communities and understanding their cumulative impacts. Then also you want to engage with the community representatives when planning your projects. In fact, you want to let those community leaders lead because they know their communities, they know the people that they represent, they have direct access, and they also have trust built up already with those communities, and not take a small sort of sample, but really cast a wide net to be able to get at disparate communities, people who have different perspectives, et cetera, so that you can avoid the unintended consequences that come from projects that are hastily done without proper community engagement. And then also, finally, you want to acknowledge the expertise of those local leaders, honor their time, have your meetings in places that are accessible and times and dates that are accessible, provide childcare, meals when we're back to having in-person events, of course. And in the Zoom world, right? Like how many Zooms can one person be on? So be respectful of that, acknowledge that, engage with those communities, go to meetings that are already existing, et cetera, to be able to engage and outreach in a respectful way. And don't forget, if you're asking them to do something, be respectful and offer a stipend, pay them for their time, especially if you're asking them to do real work. All right, thank you. Next slide. When we think about the New Jersey Comfort Partners, I'm excited by the program. It's one of many programs offered by New Jersey Clean Energy. Kelly mentioned some of them. I myself have taken advantage of the refrigerator rebate. We went through the whole rigmarole. We brought it outside and we, made sure it was coastal plug so we could plug it in. The guys came, they took it, and like I don't know, 6 months later, I got a check for $50 and it was great. But they do the appliance rebate, small and large. I replaced some air conditioners, and so those are going to be. I'm going to fill out the little application and get those. PSE&G, I think, is starting their home energy, home performance audits up again at the beginning of June. So definitely take a look at that. They've done electric vehicle incentives, et cetera. And so the New Jersey Comfort Program, try saying that real fast 7 times. The New Jersey Comfort Partners Program is a free program. It's been running in New Jersey since 2001, and it offers low-income residents, you've heard it several times, I think Tracy just talked about it in depth, opportunities to reduce their energy bills and offer them education as well. And so it's a program that actually maxes out its budget here in Newark every year, but a renewed focus on rental units has met with the combined efforts of the towns that Tracy mentioned, her Essex hub, in order to create a really targeted outreach program. Next slide. And so, though the program has been in existence for 20 years, the program does manage to max out its funding. And though we still see an underserved group in the city, and that might be surprising since 80% of Newark residents are renters, and 60% of those renters are cost burden, meaning they spend an inordinate amount of their a percentage of their income, more than 30%, on rent and or energy costs. We're conducting a joint campaign here, working with some of these Essex County partners. Already confirmed are Irvington, Newark, obviously, Orange, South Orange, Maplewood, Montclair, and Verona. We've already met with our representatives in Newark. PSE&G is the sole gas and electric provider, and they also are, so they handle the whole city. And so they have one contractor, Honeywell, and they have been, I think, handling the contracts possibly since the beginning of the campaign. And so we've also reached out to East Orange, Nutley, Belleville, and Bloomfield. And so we're ideally going to be having all these partners working together with shared resources, the toolkit that Tracy mentioned, to be able to provide outreach in support of the Comfort Partners program. Hopefully this is all working towards, we don't want to unduly tell people what they have or don't have available. We don't want to tell them they have money available when there isn't funds available. So we're really looking forward to hopefully an increase in budgets in these in the Essex County specifically, or around the state altogether, so that more people can take advantage of this program. Next slide, please. All right, so what we have, oh, that's what happened. I was looking at the bottom of my notes instead of the top. Crazy. Okay, so the New Jersey Comfort Partners program, we're going to be outreaching to renters specifically, and we have 2 goals. So if the program's already very popular, right? And so we want to target renters, specifically those who are utilizing the Newark Housing Authority Section 8 voucher program. And that requires a little bit of finagling, just because that's a very private program and there's privacy concerns with that. So we've been working with the NHA team over there to be able to provide materials. As is mentioned over here on the side of your screen, you can see doing sessions through the Newark Housing Authority with the Green Team and the Newark People's Assembly, which is an outreach opportunity. There's already been public events that have happened through Newark People's Assembly. Also do a private mailing to those Section 8 recipients using the toolkit that Tracy mentioned, distribute posters and the toolkit materials throughout the municipal offices. We're talking libraries, our partner organizations on the ground here, as well as in the fall, when hopefully the funding is renewed, we can do some social media outreach. We're just trying to promote, but also limit, so that we don't give a false impression to people that there's unlimited funds for the program. We want people to be excited and to sign up, and not be overly disappointed if and when the funds for the program are maxed out. And so outreach to the Housing Authority Section 8 renters involved working with the NHS staff to maintain that confidentiality. I do want to repeat that. And we're also hoping to work with the Invest Newark Housing Authority Section 8 home ownership conversion program. And that's a pilot program that's just started where they have the ability for that Section 8 voucher to be used to pay down a mortgage. And so to make sure that those homeowners have the best opportunities, we want to make sure that their homes are properly sealed and as efficient as they can be. So that's just my overview. Thank you very much. Nancy?
Excellent, Nicole. Just an amazing amount of information there and some great tips on working with communities and building those relationships based on respect and understanding that, you know, those on the front lines, you know, they understand their limitations and so forth. So, you know, making sure those meetings are accessible and so forth. Very, very nice. I was really struck by your focus early on in your presentation on the workforce development part. And I'm very pleased to say that our next project case study will be able to highlight some of that. It's a very different kind of case study, but I think we'll come around to some of the same community benefits there with Dan Jennings' case. So Dan, I'll throw the floor over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. And I want to thank Sustainable Jersey for allowing East Orange to participate in this webinar. And before I begin, though, I want to say we're definitely going to be pursuing the Comfort Partners effort and bringing that to East Orange. And I'm also realizing that we need to hire someone like Nicole Miller on our team who can really dive deep, dive deep into this stuff and focus on it. So Nicole, you're doing terrific stuff in Newark. And we look forward to replicating some of what you're doing here in East Orange. So yes, I just want to highlight, just talk a little bit about this project. I shouldn't say a little bit because this project is actually the largest project in the city's history. It's a $400 million overhaul of ShopRite Plaza. Next slide, please. So this is, so the current ShopRite or Brick Church Plaza, if you look at the bigger, I guess the bigger rectangle, currently contains a ShopRite and other stores, and it's right next to the Brick Church train station. So it's a wonderful location from a public transit point of view and from a driving point of view, where you'll see in the slide Interstate Route 280, also very near the Garden State Parkway. One of the reasons why they call East Orange the crossroads of New Jersey. So I'm going to focus the rest of the presentation or the project description on the bigger rectangle, because that's where the first phase of development is going to happen. Next slide, please. So the first phase of development is actually going to be divided into two subphases. But in total, this project is going to add 820 rental units to the site. There is currently no housing at the site. Also going to get a new, bigger first-class ShopRite. So we're really excited about that. A 60,000 square foot ShopRite. Some co-working space, something very interesting, an urban food hall, which will target our caterers and folks who feel like it's too costly to start up, to get a storefront, to open up their own restaurant. But we'll bring them together in this food hall settings. By the way, I love food halls, and I've been to a number of them in the area and around the country. So I think bringing one to East Orange just makes a lot of sense. And there'll also be a parking deck and 1,600 parking spaces. 1,200 will be in that deck. That deck will target residents, shoppers, and commuters. So, and then you see below phase 2, but phase 2 is not really in the cards right now. Next slide. So this is a rendering of what the project will look like. I should also mention that we also have Burlington Co-Factory has signed up for phase 1B. So we're also excited about that. So the residential will exist above the retail, and we will be putting solar on the roof of the residential buildings or the mixed-use buildings and the garage. Next slide. And this kind of gives you a sense of where the solar will be placed on the rooftops. So it will be placed throughout the site. Next slide. So we expect this project to generate, I guess, 0.5 milliwatt of power. And we're targeting there are a number of buildings in East Orange that are 100% affordable, meaning that all the tenants in these buildings pay no more than 30% of their income to rent, and they have Section 8 vouchers. And these buildings are generally privately owned. And we have over 30 of those buildings in East Orange. So the goal here is to target a few of those buildings that are 100% affordable. In some cases, they're all seniors. They have seniors. In other cases, there's a mix of seniors and families, and in still other cases, all families. So we are working with the developer to craft that outreach plan to these buildings. The good news is we do work with most building owners. Most buildings are required to register and report their rent in the city. We have a unit at City Hall that does that. Next slide, please. So we see the solar as just being one aspect of a wider program of community benefits associated with this project. In fact, we've negotiated we've inked a community benefit agreement with the developer. And you'll see at the top some of the activities that will be funded by the community benefit activities. So workforce hiring programs, and I'll talk about that in a minute. There'll be, there'll be new streetscape and signage. There'll be ability to fund open space improvements around the site, but further away from the site. So we are really proud to have a community benefit package associated with this project, and certainly the community solar piece plays an important part of that. Now, also in our agreements, we talk about the developer's obligation to make best efforts to employ residents of East Orange in both construction and permanent jobs associated with the project. So in fact, the developer is going to write commitments in their major leases that when employers or stores are hiring, is that they'll give residents a first look. And again, at the end of the day, we're not expecting any store to employ 100% residents of East Orange. We don't think that's realistic, but the idea is anybody, who wants a job at this project will have a shot at a job. We're working with the developer right now to craft training programs, particularly for the construction phase of the project. And we're in discussions with NJ Build and other providers to provide residents who want to be exposed to trades, including solar, opportunities to be trained. We're also working with the vendor for the solar, I think it's Vanguard, to make sure that residents can be placed in those job opportunities that would be created by the installation of the solar. Next slide. So this just goes over other economic and community benefits. But we're really excited about the project. It's taken quite a while for the project to be in the position. We expect to break ground this year. Very happy to report. In fact, we just got approval from the local finance board, to issue bonds for the project or on behalf of the project. So we're really confident that it's going to launch this year. And we want to be ready so that as, when the construction begins, that residents are given the first crack at opportunities. In fact, we're also coordinating workforce and construction skill training with the unions that are going to be participating in this project, Local 3 and Local 55. So with that said, again, it's a pleasure to present this project to you. On behalf of Mayor Tanner Green and our City Council, we bring you greetings and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Dan. That's really great. I mean, the multiple facets of this project just overwhelm me. So congratulations, great job. And I know you've worked with a lot of different partners. So I guess we could probably, do we have any other slides, Tracy, before I jump? Oh, we do. I'm so sorry. Tracy's actually going to jump back in, excuse me, with a little bit more detail on some resources that Sustainable Jersey has relative to community solar projects, and particularly important, the municipal role in community solar. So Dan is a great resource on that, but Tracy, excuse me, I will hand it back to you.
Thank you, Nancy. So like Nancy said, Sustainable Jersey has quite a few resources for community solar, and the probably easiest way to access all of those resources is to go to our community solar resource page, which has a link to our community solar energy how-to guide that we put together in partnership with the BPU, which has information about supporting municipalities in doing in being a partner to a community solar project. We also have several webinars that we've conducted over the last couple of years that deal with different components of community solar, including a very recent webinar about conducting outreach to residents about community solar. There's also outreach resources that are included in our resource page, and a Sustainable Jersey action that awards points to municipalities that do community solar outreach programs as part of our certification program. The last thing to, so I mentioned that there is outreach support in that, in our action and in the how-to guide. Some of the resources that have been developed is that Sustainable Princeton was funded by Sustainable Jersey. They developed a community solar overview for residents, which helps explain the community solar program in language that's geared toward residents. And they also provide a tip sheet on what to look for in community solar projects. So that can be very useful to all communities, even outside of Princeton, in doing outreach to their residents about community solar. Also, Secaucus has a solar page that they have up on their municipal website that encourages outreach to residents, or that has outreach information about community solar for residents as well. The really important thing to know about community solar is that there's been so much discussion about different types of solar in New Jersey, some of which has not really panned out for residents that have participated, that it's important to message that this is a program that's being administered by the Board of Public Utilities and is being really carefully protected for residents, and the municipality, by being an outreach partner, really helps send that message, that the municipality is a trusted messenger to their residents, and having the outreach come from municipal resources does provide that level of trust that helps residents to know that this is a valuable program for them. And so, you can use municipal outreach channels like your newsletter and email, e-blast if you have one, do public meetings like Zoom to educate about community solar. And of course, if you have a project in your community, to have a public ribbon cutting and press release for that event as well. And Nancy, I'm going to hand it back over to you now.
Okay, now it's time. Oh, well, once again, I want to thank the panelists for this excellent information. That's really actionable information. That's what I like the most. This is information that you can put into action in your community, program details that can help you understand the programs and get up and running. I do want to pause and see, let's leave the emails up there for a minute, Tracy. But I'd like to invite the speakers, if there's anything you wanted to emphasize, given, what other speakers said, or any questions and so forth. I have a couple of questions for the speakers, but I will open the floor to you all if any of you have questions for each other. And audience members, of course, please jump in. We haven't seen too much chatter. We've had great attendance, but not too much chatter in the outfield, as they say. So pop in your questions. And any comments or questions from the speakers?
Hey, Nancy, it's Kelly. I just wanted to say, to Nicole's point, talking about the legislation, that it was important for us to give a shout out to the sponsors on that. We did see the great idea of the Office of Clean Energy Equity. And, while we're waiting for the rest of the legislation to move through, we did know that it was important to have an office that was specifically focused on the equity lens and ensuring that everyone can take advantage of all of the benefits of clean energy, and to make sure that our policies are appropriate in terms of, addressing some of the, systemic and historical challenges that we have in the state. So I wanted to give appropriate due to the legislators for that wonderful idea, which we wanted to move ahead on right away and point that out. So thank you.
Also on that point, yeah, it's really great to hear that BPU is taking that leadership. But one of the aspects I think I mentioned was the funding of community-based projects for efficiency, et cetera. And just to put it a little bit in perspective, so in the 20 years that Comfort Partners has been operating in Newark specifically, between, I think, February, the numbers I have here are February 1st, 2006 to October 31st, 2018, just in that, 12-year time period, they did 4,009 jobs, like retrofits, which sounds like a lot, but when you think about a city of 250,000 people, it's just not, and many of them are struggling. It's not that many, and so something like the Clean Energy Equity Act would devote a lot of money towards making sure that those programs are more robust and can handle a wider selection of the population. I think it's 250,000 families, or 35% of the folks that at or below poverty level, which is a wonderful opportunity.
And I think I will pick up, and Kelly, you're welcome to jump back in. I see you taking some notes there if you need to think for a minute, but I'm getting ready to actually probably put you on the spot anyway. So I'll preface it a bit to give folks time to process what, Nicole, very good points. And we've seen that, for many years, that the Comfort Partners program does spend its budget, which is good news, but it's also not good news, right? Because the budget's not reaching everyone. But I just want to take a minute to really draw a lot of these things together in terms of what, we've been using the term co-benefits maybe for many years, but Dan's case and Nicole's case and just the general concepts that, Kelly and Tracy provided for us the co-benefits are so wide, the health benefits for people, the economic benefits, and that's on all sides. So we're talking, Nicole, in your case with Comfort Partners, to reduce those energy bills. And in Dan's case, we're talking about the co-benefits of creating jobs. And even I actually don't know the concept, Dan, of the urban food hall, but I'm like, yeah, it just like opens up so many opportunities for economic development, growth, for folks to get involved in, all aspects of this changing landscape. The trick question, and I don't know if it's a trick question or not. Well, there's two parts, Kelly. One is the excitement about the whole house program that's really focusing on the health and I imagine some of the structural issues in many homes that makes it difficult to do the work. But the other one is, it could be that the audience members were hearing about, Comfort Partners, and it's for buildings of 14 residential units or less. And I wanted to take the opportunity for both Dan, Newark, everyone on the call, to remind that housing units, a multifamily building of more than 14 units, and all of those businesses in Dan's redevelopment zone, and of course all the businesses in Newark and around the state, there are commercial programs that are set up especially to provide incentives for them to do the upgrades. Now, up until today, we're going into the transition, right? But up until today, we've had direct install for most of them, which may pay up to 70 or 80% of the cost. We're assuming, and no one's asking to speak on upcoming programs, but I did want to mention that those multifamily buildings, there is a program for them.
Yeah, Nancy, that's true. And good point. So in the energy efficiency transition, and of course, with 12 minutes to talk, you don't get to talk about all of the exciting programs and the details, but in the energy efficiency transition, the utilities are going to be taking over the existing residential and existing commercial. And one of the things that we've wanted for a very long time, and in fact, the board required in the June 10th board order on energy efficiency transition, was a specific multifamily program. So from here on out, the utilities will all have specifically designed multifamily programs. We have a subcommittee where we are already meeting regularly to try to address some of the issues that come up through the administration, things like split incentives, where you have a landlord who owns the building and the renters who are paying for the energy and still have to get the approval of the landlord to make those upgrades and changes. So there will be a dedicated program for that, which we're really excited about. Back to whole house, one of the things that we found is that people wanted to do energy efficiency in their home, and so they were going in, they were trying to utilize the program, and they were getting kicked out for a variety of reasons. They couldn't get in because of the difficulty in proving income eligibility, or they couldn't get in because they had mold in their house, and you don't want to put insulation in if you haven't dealt with the mold situation. And so for a long time, the program has heard, really appropriate complaints about not being able to address these concerns. And you can't really say, okay, we're only going to do energy efficiency, and if you can't get through this program, then that's it. You got to go to another program, because that doesn't really work for people. They can't take multiple days off of work to have multiple contractors come. They don't know their way to get through the system. And so the idea here is, and the whole house pilot program is going to be a pilot in one community with a backup community, so that we can determine how we leverage all those resources from DCA in terms of weatherization, from DEP in terms of lead remediation, so that we can put those all in one place, so that you can go one-stop shopping to a place where you can address energy efficiency, where we've got this great program, Comfort Partners, but not everybody has been able to utilize it. And you can also address some of these other aspects, which will not only make it more comfortable, but also more safe in your home environment, as well as reducing your bills overall. So we're really excited about it. During the energy efficiency transition, we took a lot of comments in, and we took some appropriate medicine, that I think we needed to take in order to start to address these, even things like income eligibility, which has been a real challenge for a lot of our programs. We heard some of the details about that. We have started a pilot program to do income eligibility by census tract. So if you're in any of these other programs where you're getting any kind of assistance, you're already in the program. But also, if you're in an area that has been identified as needing this assistance, then you would be able to automatically get in. And these are the types of barriers to the programs that we're trying to reduce in order to meet those goals and objectives.
This is all great news. We're really excited about that. We want to make sure that we share that with our partners, our community partners, who are the conduits that we have to the actual residents who would want to take part in those services. Because those are the questions that we get all the time, like, oh, I'm a renter. What is my eligibility? What if I'm right on the cusp? You know, et cetera, et cetera. And I think Nancy mentioned Dan's presentation with the food halls. It's like, that's so exciting. My analog is Pike Place Market. I don't know, it's a Seattle attraction, but that's what I think of is Pike Place Market. And I'm like, if we can have a Pike Place Market in East Orange, oh, I'm gonna live over there, okay? Not like really 07106, that's me.
That's great. I love this cross panelist connection here. Let's see. Looks like we have one question coming in. Oh, how interesting. This is an interesting question. So thank you. The person says, excellent presentation today. The question is, would you see New Jersey moving toward Energy Star portfolio manager requirements for utilities to share their data? So we know we're working currently with a number of Sustainable Jersey staff is offering technical assistance to a number of municipalities and schools right now. And, from the user perspective, if the utilities had a way to just hit a button to share that data over into Energy Star Portfolio Manager. Kelly, I don't know if that's something you have your finger on the pulse about, or.
Yeah, so one of the big projects that we still have in terms of obligations under the Clean Energy Act, which I mentioned, is benchmarking. I think we've done a pretty good job in a short amount of time with limited resources in terms of staff capacity in getting out a number of different, really exciting components of the clean energy agenda and of energy equity. But we still have to take on benchmarking. And so the Clean Energy Act requirement is for buildings over 25,000 square feet. That we have to track the energy and water usage. I know that there are a number of communities that are starting to do this at a smaller level, on residential size. That's the type of information that, and also the ability for us to capture metrics and evaluation data is something that we're just starting to take on. We just actually hired someone who's going to be working on evaluation, measurement, and verification, which we're really excited about. We have a lot of programs, we have a lot of projects, and there's a lot of money that's going into this. And we need to make sure that there's robust oversight, both of the state programs and also the utility programs. And we need to be able to quantify who's being served and what the types of energy savings are. And importantly, what the greenhouse gas emission reductions are towards those energy master plan goals that we've set that are both very robust and very necessary in order for us to kind of address, climate change coming on. So we're just really starting to dig into that now. I'm glad to have the help of a professional coming on board. We have also, the board has also gone out for a statewide evaluator that will help us to evaluate all of our programs as well. So we'll be setting up those processes in order to capture that type of information. But certainly the portfolio manager is a key component there.
Great. We do have a couple minutes left since you mentioned the benchmarking law. Could you offer a couple other sentences on that, including, because I have forgotten myself, when it goes into effect, when the requirement is there, and sort of define benchmarking for audience members who may not be used to the lingo?
Yeah, so the requirement is a couple of years out before the actual obligation is on the building owners. Certainly the state has that for our own state facilities, with many of which are over 25,000 square feet. But it's for both, it's for energy use within the building and also for water use, which is interesting because it's one of the few mentions in the Clean Energy Act of water use. But we know that there's a lot of, there's an aging infrastructure in terms of water in the state of New Jersey. There's a lot of water loss that we have seen in our aging pipe infrastructure. We actually have a grant program that just closed for competitive applications on Monday for acoustical testing, which we have done a lot of research into and have determined that not only can you, by fixing your pipes, you can save water and save treatment costs, but you can also save a considerable amount of energy from the energy that's used to pump that water. So back to benchmarking, it's going to require those building owners to report on their energy savings or their energy use for the entire building and their water use as well. And that just helps us to, set programs and projects and targets towards meeting those goals, and to have an understanding of the building stock in the state of New Jersey, and potentially look in the future to ratcheting that down.
Excellent. And right on the button of 12:45. So I want to say I appreciate the audience staying with us for the presentation. And again, I can't thank the speakers enough. This was really fantastic information. So we will have a recording of this session, the recording and the slides. If you want to review the slides, I put some of the links in the chat while we were going along, but there's live links in the slides. Give us about a week to get all that posted on our website, but it'll all be there for your review. And again, thank you very much.